To be very frank with you all, the only MCU movie which I was looking forward this year was towards the very end in the form of Spider-Man No Way Home. I was not really even interested even a bit about Shang-Chi. I knew that this was a movie which was apparently coming out around this particular time, but specifically because I've never really read a comic about him or his character or his origin stories, I was inherently not that really excited about this movie. I thought that maybe this is going to be yet another Asian-based martial art movie, something maybe along the lines of Iron Fist and something along the lines of Hong Kong-based martial art movies as well. But I was wrong. I was really wrong to underestimate this movie, and let me rectify my mistake with this particular video by saying that Shang-Chi is probably one of the absolute best of MCU so far till date. I mean, sure, it can never really top the likes of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Those are the culminations of 10 years worth of storytelling. But if I'm going to just talk about it on a standalone perspective, I can really go on to say that this movie is absolutely amazing for a number of different reasons. But before that, hello and welcome to Wonder WhyZ, and thank you so much for joining in. In this quick video, we're going to talk about Shang-Chi in a non-spoiler manner. Please note that this video won't contain any major spoilers. I just got the opportunity to watch this movie, and I know that because of the pandemic times, not everyone is really having the time to go and watch the movies in theaters. So I'm gonna give you all some time to go and watch this movie on your own, and this video is going to be a spoiler-free section. I'm going to limit my spoiler exposure here in this particular video and just go over some of the basic plot points and some of the moments which have been talked in the trailer, and overall talk about the narrative of this movie and how it really fits in for all the audiences concerned. But before that, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to the channel. A like and sub really helps me a lot because it helps the content of the channel to get recommended into your YouTube feed. With that being said, let's just begin this video. So Shang-Chi, let me just say that this movie is really amazing. Why? Because first of all, I can recommend this to any non-MCU fan as well. And yeah, there are still people who are not really caught up with the MCU saga as a whole, but even then I can actually recommend this movie to a lot of non-MCU fans as a standalone movie which they are going to enjoy. At the same time, I can also recommend this to anime fans because this is probably the absolutely closest movie which we are going to see, which comes, like close to a proper anime-esque adaptation. Because the second half of this movie, I know that the CGI could have been better, but oh my goodness, this was absolutely amazing. I can only wish that we got to see an anime adaptation in the live action form, something like this. And honestly, after seeing this, I'm having some expectations, like some sliver of hope for the Netflix One Piece adaptations as well. But anyway, those are the topics of discussion for another day. Subscribe to the channel if you want to follow those discussions. But anyway, this movie can be easily recommended to any non-MCU fans as well. Sure, MCU fans and long-time fans of Marvel will be able to acknowledge and enjoy the smaller Easter eggs and references which are spread throughout the movie. There are very minute details which, if you are able to find out even on the first, second or third watch, you are going to be absolutely elated, because that links to the history and past of the MCU, it relates to the past of the Marvel comics, and at the same time it seamlessly builds up the overall future of the MCU series as well in a very effective manner. Moreover, after watching the movie, I quickly went over and read some of the classic Shang-Chi comics, and let me tell you all right out of the bat. Now yeah, I'm not really the biggest comic book nerd out there. I've not really read every single comic book storylines, but at least on a surface level, I can easily say that this origin story is really better. They improve upon the 10 rings, they improve upon the story of Shang-Chi, and especially they perfectly adapt the story of Shang-Chi's father, Ben Wu. It's a little bit different from the comics, but I'm really happy that they're going this particular route, and absolutely hats off to the actors for their on-point portrayal. All of them are so damn talented, like their portrayal was absolutely amazing. Hats off to them, every single one was amazing here. But anyway, I just want to say here that I know that this movie is called Shang-Chi and this is essentially his origin story, but at the same time this is also a proper origin story for the Mandarin, and finally all the Easter eggs from the Iron Man storyline have been finally paid off in an absolutely beautiful manner, and I'm just absolutely in love with all of this. Moreover, one particular plot point which I just want to talk about a little bit here, it's not essentially spoiler or anything, but it's one particular plot point, or I could say a TV trope, which has been essentially a very big part of anime as well as some of the comic book storylines as well, which is inexistent parents, or maybe parents who are not dead but who don't really contribute that much to the storyline of the superheroes or even the supervillains. But that is not the case here, because Wenwu is actually a character. He's a villain, he's a father, he's a husband who has been truly brought to life as a character. He's not just a caricature, but rather he's a fully emotional human being, and this was really good to watch because his interactions with his son and daughter are absolutely amazing. And prior to all of that, his interactions to his late wife, my goodness, that was amazing. This movie was made possible because of some absolutely talented people behind the scenes, from stunt actors to choreographers and a lot of other talented people. Now, I'm doing this particular recording right now without having any script. I just came after watching the movie and I have not really looked at the cast members, but from what I heard, I think that the cinematographer and shot directors are from the Matrix series, and that is pretty much evident throughout the entire movie, especially those particular fight scenes. And for a better understanding of you all, I'm going to leave the names of the people, the talented people on screen here. I'm sorry, I just couldn't include them in the video in a voice form because I just came after watching this movie and I wanted to make this video as soon as possible so that I can give you all my raw thoughts and interpretations. Lastly, I just want to talk about the tonal shift in this movie. If anything, it was a little bit jarring because the first half of the movie was a true Hong Kong style martial art movie. The bus fight scene, probably one of the absolute best among the entirety of MCU. In a very long time, we got to see a hand-to-hand combat scene which can actually rival the likes of Winter Soldier. I can even go on to say, at least on a limb, that this scene is better than the Winter Soldier fight scene as well, because it shows a much more ruthless, aggressive vibe, which is very much an intrinsic part of this movie, because initially in the story, Shang-Chi uses a totally different fighting style, which has a meaning, a deeper meaning, which is intrinsically linked to his story, his backstory, and the ancestral guilt that he's hovering from his father as well. The plot point of the ancestral guilt and a lot of other Eastern mythological concepts have been quite an intrinsic part of this movie. I'm not going to go in depth over them because they kind of lie in the spoiler territories, but I just wanted to tell you all that their incorporation has been absolutely on point here. Moreover, some of the other references to martial art based movies was really amazing, from the nature inspired moves to the stunt choreography and the fight scenes. They were really amazing. The only fight scene which lagged a little bit in my opinion was the construction scene fight, but it's just fine. It's not bad or anything, but it's just fine. If we compare that to the bus scene, it's much better. Initially in the first half of the movie, we see the more realistic martial art approach, and in the second half we get to the much more mythical and mystical side of MCU, and this was explored wonderfully. Sure, the CGI was a little bit lacking here, but the overall final product was really impressive in my opinion, and like I said before, it introduces us to some very exciting concepts which is going to be sort of the stepping stone for the future of the MCU series as a whole. So I'm really eager for them as well. And lastly, like I said before, the references to the other martial art based movies were absolutely amazing. I even got some references from Kung Fu Panda 2 as well, which is one of my absolutely favorite animation movies of all time. So good job there MCU, good job there. And this is basically everything which I could include here. Talking about anything more than that here would just kind of get into the spoilers territory, so I'm going to stop myself here, even though there's a bunch of other stuff which I want to talk about, especially in regards to this movie, because honestly I was blown away by this. This is probably what you can call a surprise winner, because honestly I didn't really have any sort of expectations for this movie, but turns out this movie is going to be one of my absolutely favorite movies in the MCU lore. This is probably like a yet another Guardians of the Galaxy moment, but for a totally different reason altogether. And lastly, I would like to end this movie by calling out some of the other anime references. My goodness, Dragon Ball is legitimately a part of the MCU storyline, because in the end, we get a name drop for Kamehameha. Not just anything, but literally Kamehameha. That means that Dragon Ball is a story which is actually present in the MCU storyline. I wonder, in the world of MCU, who actually is a fan of Dragon Ball? I mean, these people obviously know about Kamehameha, so they are fans of Dragon Ball, but at the same time, I feel like Peter Parker is going to be a huge fan of Dragon Ball as well. So good jobs there, MCU, absolutely good jobs. And lastly, before ending, I just want to talk about the 10 rings. They were paid off really well, they look really well, and their transition from the hands of Wen Wu to Shang-Chi was absolutely amazing. This was really symbolic. Again, I can't really go much in depth over this thing because of spoilers, but this was absolutely brilliant to watch. I was really wondering while I was watching this movie that where have I seen the utilization of something like this, when it really struck me that the way in which they are utilizing the rings actually remind me of an old video game which I used to love a lot. I know it's a little bit different, but the way in which they were utilizing these rings was actually very effective, and it was essentially Prince of Persia 2 Thrones. This really reminded me of the prince when he was using his whip. But anyway, these are some of my quick thoughts in regards to Shang-Chi. The first half being an absolutely amazing martial art based movie, and the second half being a mythical based movie including elements of Eastern mythologies such as the Qilin, the QB and all the other creatures was absolutely amazing in my opinion. So what do you guys think about all these things? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So that's it for today guys, thank you so much for joining in. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel for more. Join the channel membership for some very cool perks and features. Join our Discord servers for more discussions. This is Wonder WhyZ, see you all on the next one.